Everyone. Today's January, January 3rd, and this is our VRI team update. And I have 3 items for today. Nobody was able to log in for the meeting, so I'm just doing this recording on my computer, and I want to show you share my screen, so this is a little bit easier for me. So I have 3 items for today on my agenda. I have adherence, using Teams tabs, resources, and a new technical readiness protocol sheet that we're going to distribute and then start instituting for our remote workers. So that'll be this group, and then also like any of our coordinators who work remote. Okay, and then I have one question that was submitted, and actually I'll start with the question this week. So the question came from a VI, and they wanted to know, like, what do we do when you provide the disclaimer to the LEP and they're not really understanding it? This is due to the fact that maybe they're coming out of surgery and they are still groggy from sedation or anesthesia, or they're just not seeming to comprehend what it is you're saying. Like, what do you do? How do you handle that? So I would like you guys to reply to this question in the comment section once this video is posted in SharePoint, so we can sort of like consolidate our group knowledge and come up with some good strategies for interpreters to use for handling these situations. There's no right or wrong, like, hard line answer for what do you do in those situations. Obviously, any decision you make on how to handle that is going to have some consequences, so it's basically what are the consequences of whatever decision you would make, and then how does that impact your work, the clients, the LEP, all that stuff. This is a little bit goes to like supervision, which I haven't forgotten about that. We are going to get some supervision groups going where you can bring scenarios like this to group and talk about it and sort of build your skills for handling these kind of like unique situations that come up. And I also want to just remind anyone that if you have questions that come up while you're working that are like this, situational, like how would you handle this, you can put them in the Teams chat and your peers can kind of pitch in and answer the questions. And then if you have questions about like this happened in the call, I forgot what is the rule about this, like as far as like specific language line protocols, you can always private message the trainers, Elizabeth and Natasha. They both, if they're working, usually one of them is working during the day, so if you private message them, they can redirect you back to the language line protocol, and if it's after your shift, then they'll get your message on their next shift. So anyway, so after you're done with the video, go ahead and post in the comment section below. Okay, so my first agenda item is adherence. Now this is really just a refresher for many of you who've worked here, and then also kind of a new topic for those new interpreters. We've had so many come in the last few months. I thought it would be good to review what adherence is and how it's evaluated, so that we will be able to kind of like exert some controls over like our adherence numbers. But this is not a topic I'm bringing up because we're not doing good at it. We're doing amazing at it. We are well above our requirement for adherence, and I'm always really happy with this because it's a big one for our client. It's what they refer to as a KPI, a key performance indicator. So it's one way that we're evaluated on what a good vendor we are. So it's basically adherence is how well, as individuals, the adherence is evaluated, how well you are sticking to your shift, working when you're assigned to work. And we'll talk a little bit about how to bump your numbers up with that. And then as a group, adherence is basically how well we're able to work what we've scheduled. And so that falls to like me and Giovanna and like us as a group, like when people call in sick or whatever, or have emergencies, how well can we get that covered last minute? So like swapping or having people pick up, that's like group adherence. So I'll talk about some of the tips how you can like really focus on your adherence and understand like what impacts adherence. And then I have a report that Giovanna and I provide to, Giovanna drafts the report, and then I present it every week on Wednesday, and then once a month and once a quarter I have big meetings where we take a look at like monthly adherence and quarterly adherence among several KPIs. That's one thing, but so I thought you guys might like to see that. So this will give you some visibility into what we do with this data. So adherence, basically 100% adherence, it's looked at per shift and then per like week and month. So 100% adherence is you are logged in and available at the start time assigned to you, and you are logged out exactly at the end time assigned to you. Okay, and then so here are a few things that impact adherence. That would be 100% adherence. 0% adherence is basically calling in sick, dropping a shift. So that is zero adherence. That is zero adherence for that shift. Even when you swap shifts, the person who drops the shift and the other person who takes it, the person who drops the shift gets zero adherence for dropping that shift. It doesn't, this swapping is still super important because that helps with our group adherence numbers. But if you're swapping too many shifts, you might see your adherence numbers decline because you basically were assigned something and then not doing it, but it was covered. So for the group, it's still good. So definitely still get your shifts swapped, but try to reduce the amount of times that you swap. The best thing to do is try to get as much 100% adherence as you can throughout the week, and then when you call in sick or you get the flu or whatever, then it really doesn't impact you at all, because if you work 50 shifts and you have zero adherence for 3 of them because you've been sick, your numbers still look fantastic and are well above 90. So here are the things at the start of the shift that can impact adherence that you have control over. So I want to make sure you understand. So like, if you log in early, that's perfectly fine. But what impacts adherence is when you log in early and go available too early. So if you log in 10 minutes early because you want to be like all set and ready to go, that's perfectly fine. But if you went available 10 minutes early, you'll be out of adherence. So the best thing to do is, if you like to log in early, then wait and then go available at your start time. So that would be 100% adherence. And then the same is true. Let's say you're like, okay, well, I'll just log in on time. Well, that's fine, but if you log in on time at the start time and then don't go available for 5 more minutes, you're out of adherence again. So it's actually better to log in early, go available at the start time. But if you want to log in at the start, if you're just like, you have a tight schedule, you log in at your start time and you go available right away, it's also fine. It's just like the going available at the time you've been scheduled to start is the key to adherence. How you manage the logging in around that is, totally up to you. It's just that this is what impacts the adherence at the start of the shift. Okay, and so let's look at the end of the shift. So the end of the shift, what impacts adherence is, again, how you manage the logging out portion of the end of the shift. So some people log out, like they say they want to take their very last break of the day at the end of the shift because they can't afford to get like caught in a call. No problem. But what they do is they log out 10 minutes early and take off. Okay, that will put you out of adherence. What you want to do, if you want to keep your adherence numbers high and you still want to manage that shift, is you would, at the 10 or 15 minutes before the end of your shift, go on break and then log out at the end of your shift time. That would keep you at 100% adherence. But I'll give you a caution. You run the risk. So if you're going to do that, set a timer or something, or just like sit there and wait and make sure you're watching, because if you go on break for 10 minutes at the end of your shift and then forget, and you are on break for 20 minutes and it's past your shift, that will put you out of adherence as well. So the best thing to do is to take your break at the end of the shift like you want, but then just like keep an eye on the clock or set a timer, and then log out right at the end time. So those two things, managing the start and end of the shift, will really help you keep that 100% adherence. Okay, now during the shift, what can affect your adherence? So during the shift, we've really only seen one thing that affects adherence, and it's actually a communication thing, because the issue is that sometimes during your shift you have a tech problem that requires you to log out and reboot your system, and you're basically like logged out for 5 minutes or so. 5 or 10 minutes while you're rebooting, or you have to like get off and get on the phone with tech support, and you're logged out all this time, and then we don't know about it. There's no follow-up email to us, and when we see the reports, we just see a random log out mid-shift for 5 or 7 minutes or 10 minutes with no explanation from you. That will count against your adherence. It lowers your adherence by a percentage. And so best thing to do is get in the habit of sending a message to us when there's any time you log out during your shift. Send it to us, because we can waive that adherence thing. So like even if it's something like, I'm trying to think why, really the only reason you would log out during a shift, like mid-shift, would be for a tech issue. Because even if like you had to like run to the bathroom real quick or grab a coffee, or someone's at the door, like UPS is delivering a package that needs signing, anything like that, like you still would just like go unavailable, okay, and then go do your thing for 5 minutes and then come back. Like you use the unavailable break for those short things. Still don't log off. If you feel that like someone's at the door, or something's going on with like your kids, and you like are going to be away for more than a 10-minute break, fine. Then log out, follow up with an email, tell us what happened. So, but basically with the tech stuff, just, keep us informed every single shift if you have a tech issue that requires you to log out, so that doesn't count against your adherence. So if you are taking a look at how you manage the going available at the beginning of the shift and how you manage logging out at the end, and then communicate with the logging out in between, it's very easy to manage your adherence to get it to 100% every time. And again, the more 100% adherence shifts you work buffers against those times when your adherence drops because you call in sick or have an emergency or need to swap out a shift. So, but again, like I said, we are phenomenal at this. And let me show you our report. You can see just how good we do at this. This is my favorite KPI to talk about because we're always so good at it. And here, this is a weekly report that Joanna prepares for this weekly meeting. I meet with our language line client every Wednesday at 10:30 EST, and we talk about this report. So our very first screen is adherence, and this is our this graph shows the entire length of our programs and adherence. It's fantastic. Our KPI, we are required to stay above 80 to be performing well. And look, since July, since we started this program, we haven't been below 95, 96. I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm really happy with this. So, but of course, since 100 is possible, I would always love to be at 100 and getting us as perfect as possible. But with this, it doesn't, I mean, people calling in sick and stuff is just not a big deal. And so here's our most recent adherence for last week, 97.9. It's fantastic. Okay, so, and then here's the chart. So we report on that, and then I'll show you this quick here. We also report on individuals. So here's everyone's individual adherence. Again, fantastic, very high, well above the, and not to make anyone feel bad, like who got below 80, it's really just for calling in sick and things like that. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's just like if you have, like, if you're at 99.1, 99.5, okay, so those things that I talked about, like logging in and going available a few minutes too early, or or leaving at the end of your shift instead of going on break until those things will impact you like 0.5%, 1%, 2%. So be aware of it. If you care about having 100% adherence and now you understand how it is, just, tweak those things. But really, we're doing fantastic. I just want you to be aware. And if we ever, especially for the new people, if we ever have to come to you after a shift and say, your adherence was, 70% for the last 3 shifts, what's going on? And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I've been having tech problems. This and that, that kind of stuff is, this is probably our main way of catching tech problems. So if you just communicate to us, like take the initiative to do that, that's super helpful. And we don't have to count that against your adherence. So it keeps our numbers looking good. But anyway, we're great at it. So I'm really happy with that. Okay, so my next item is the tabs resource. I want to make sure this is also for everyone who's kind of new, but just a reminder for everyone on the group that we have a resource link in Teams. So when you go into Teams, I'm using Teams in the browser. And when you go here, you will see right here a little thing. This is Conversations, Files, and Wiki. The files have all of our resources that we've compiled for you. So look, we have Tech Issues Protocol sheet. So if you're new and something's going on, you're like, oh, what do I do? I'm having a tech issue. Don't forget, this is where the resource is housed. So you go here, and here is your protocols for when you're having tech issues and what to do. And then here's some other ones. So like we have how to set up your Rackspace email. If you accidentally get logged out or forget your password, so information is here. We have another one on like the QAs. Let me see if you want to know what are you evaluated on the quality assurance evaluations. Here's a document that has all like the rubrics. We are sharing this with you guys, but this was for our own personal use, but I think it's useful for you guys to know, so we posted it here. So here are like all of the things that they look for. So if you're like, oh, how do I get it? What does it mean to use? This one I love. Use even more pleasantries. So you were already using some, but apparently not enough. So you can take a look at these and just kind of let these inform your work when you are having an evaluation. Now, let's see what else we got here. We have some information about InterpreTech. We have information about reporting a call problem. This is a quick reference guide. We have information about one of our specific repeat clients. If you happen to have a client who it appears they're going to be calling back like daily or a couple times a day because maybe they're an employee or something, collect information, and if it's something that we can share within the group that's not too confidential, then we can post it here. This one Tona collected for us when she had this daily meeting. It's for Tri Health employee who's deaf. Actually, and like if we have that client repeat and then they go away, we probably should delete that. So, but if this is still relevant, we'll leave it there. But if you guys have other calls, we also we can store anything here that would be a good reference. So if we end up having like a bunch of reminders on, or a bunch of scenarios, like with the question that we had from the interpreters. I mean, if we have a bunch of scenarios that we want to sort of just like keep compiling more and more scenario ideas, we can put them here so people can read through them. But just before you add anything, why don't you run it by me, send me an email of something you want to be added, just so I can make sure that there's, it's kind of good for the group, and then we'll post it here. But don't forget, this is where our resources are stored here. And then, actually, let me just show you in the app too, so you can see. This is the Teams in browser. I also have the Teams app. When I'm working on different computers, I use the Teams in browsers, but usually on my phone, my iPad, and here I use the app. And here's the same thing. Here's the app. You go to Teams, the group, and then Files, right here. And you have access to that. So you can access these from any of the apps, even on your phone. So, all right, so I hope that was helpful for you guys to remember where those were. And my last item is something new. So we have like been running this program for a bit. We kind of know, we understand how people work. We've seen a variety of approaches to the work, and we've compiled best practices. And we're going to formalize those into a document called Technical Readiness Protocol for Remote Workers. If I can shorten that, I will. But this is going to be a step-by-step list of what you do to start your shift or your day. And it's not just for language line guys, like you guys. It is going to be for remote workers, because I have several other workers, coordinators and assistants that work remote too. And so I've just been kind of like looking through everything that they do, everything that's out there for like companies that have remote workers, and just kind of gonna compile this. Once it's issued, it will be the policy. So this will be an expected sequence of start work to follow that we'll expect everyone to do. And it's not going to be complicated too. It's basically just like 10 to 15 minutes before your shift, open your computer or whatever you're working on, and open any devices and just open all the programs you need. And check your soft phone. So for you guys, that would be the soft phone on the language line platform, and for our remote workers, that would be like their soft phone that we use for the phone calls, the 8x8. So they check the soft phone, everything's working, fine, go. You don't have to sit there for 15 minutes, or you just have to open everything and give it a once over. So we would open Teams, open Link, open your Rackspace email, check the soft phone, good, done. Go get the coffee, finish up whatever you gotta do, come back, you're ready, log in, go available at your start time, ready to work. At the time when you log in and go available, you will send a quick chat message to Teams saying, "Hi, this is Emily. I'm working 8 to 3 today." And that way we all know who's working, like who's in office on that day at that same time. I'm in office. So that will allow everyone to kind of like not feel like they're isolated while they're working remote. So working remote is kind of a funny thing. It's like you're alone, but you're not alone. Obviously, you're interacting with people through video. So this seems to be a best practice, this check-in. Basically, it's like a virtual in-office hour. So it'll include that, and then like it'll have, basically after that, you start your shift, and that's that. There's nothing that needs to happen like a post-work protocol. This is just to like get everyone started and make sure everyone's got the apps up that they need and has the time built into their work schedule for it. So look for that soon. I'm just drafting it, and also we might do something like this. I might draft it, issue it, collect feedback, then redraft and finish the final copy, and then make it like official, I think. But if you guys have ideas now, send that to me now while I'm drafting it. But maybe that would be better. I'll just like do a 1 week draft, and you guys can practice the protocol and see if we have feedback to tweak it, and then we can issue the final copy. And then after we issue the final copy and it's formal, then we will be holding people accountable for following the technical protocols. So okay, so anyways, that's the meeting. I hope you guys all had a wonderful break and got to spend some time with your family and refresh yourselves. I had the time off, and then unfortunately I got pneumonia, so it worked out fine because I'm rarely sick, and it just happened that I was also off work, so I was able to recuperate. But so I hope that you guys are all happy and healthy and well rested and ready for 2019. I'm really excited about a lot of stuff we have coming this year, and we are doing, just a final comment about our staffing, we still need to hire, like we have over 200 hours to fill that we're supposed to be filled on January 1st, but we're working towards that, so keep the referrals coming. Right now, so for the first quarter, just so you guys know, we're all set for evenings. So between like 5 p.m. and midnight, we have no available hours. We are blacked out, done. Okay, so when you're telling friends, like if you talk to friends and you're like, oh, your colleagues, and you're like, oh, you should apply here, blah, 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 you can let them know that like right now for this quarter, our need is days and weekends, so like during the daytimes. So 1 a.m. to, oh, no, sorry. Yeah, we do. We have some like early morning stuff, like 1 to 5. But really, so if you are saying like, oh yeah, if you're talking to people when they work, you can tell them that like basically 7 days a week, even on the weekends, we have like 10 to 5 open. basically that's kind of what we're looking for. So daytime stuff, and then the weekends during that. We have early mornings, a few early mornings that we can squeeze people in. But you guys have done such an amazing job with picking up the overnights and weekends that the overnights and the evenings, like we're just completely full, and it's great. So that's super helpful. We appreciate you guys doing that. And then I also appreciate all of the referrals, so keep them coming. And anyways, that's it for this update, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.